So nutrition, exercise, fitness, pushing that forward, we're going to live long, healthier lives.
So many of today society's problems of like, depression, anxiety, other addictions are because of like our emotional baggage and just not, like you said, being able to like process that rightly with God.
Right. So we're going to be able to do more for God, right? Like we're going to be able to work more. If God said, yo, go build me a temple, like we're carrying those stones.
Yeah. Welcome back, guys. It's Joe here with Faithful Amphibian. We have another episode for you guys. I'm going to be talking with Charles.
Yeah.
Chuck.
Charlie.
Chuck works. A lot of different names. For this episode, I'll call him Chuck, as many of you may know him. This is a special guest because it's actually Dan's brother from the same mother, not from another mother. So very interesting episode we'll have today. I think it's a pretty interesting one. I think a lot of you guys will take a lot out of the discussion. Really, it's kind of on wellness and not talking about like this holistic stuff, but kind of like how God created us. And last week and last episode, we talked about kind of the biology of, people and how that works. But I think this week it's kind of cool because we're talking more about the brain and like the spirit, I think a lot more. And we are talking about the body.
Right. How the, we have the flesh and we have the spirit, how we work to holistically join them together. Right.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. So we'll get right into it. Just kind of to let the guys, get to know you a little bit. You grew up in Millbury?
Yep. Grew up in Millbury, Central Mass.
Central Mass.
Yep. Millbury Woolies.
Nice, nice. Did you, so I'm assuming you're cradle Catholic like Dan, kind of grew up going to Mass. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what was that like?
It was kind of fun because we were altar servers. Like our two older brothers were altar servers. Like I think we started right as we got our first communion. Mm-hmm. So like when my brother was 8, I was 2. Danny was just born. So probably our whole entire life we're watching them, and then like I get my first communion, I become an altar server. Danny gets his. All 4 of us are up on the altar being altar servers. That's awesome. It was cool. Yeah, you get that backstage view.
Yeah, it is a different perspective, like being up on the altar. And I mean, my church actually just confirmed, or like 10 new altar servers, which is cool. Because for a while, it was like these 2 brothers who had been doing it for like 6 years by themselves. So definitely cool, like seeing young people up on the altar. And it is, like you said, like a different perspective on, the Mass. And, if your audio sucks at your church, you get to actually hear what the priest is saying at the podium.
Right.
Cool. And so did you go to a Catholic high school?
Nope.
Did you go to... Is it Millbury High?
Yeah, Millbury High School, yeah.
Cool. Yep. And then you went to college?
Went to Bridgewater State University, BSU. Right down the street.
Nice, nice. My dad actually works there, which is pretty fun.
Oh, really? What does he do?
He's a tradesman.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I've seen him like, putting up a picture or like, painting a door frame or something.
Nice, yeah.
But sweet. And you graduated?
Yep, graduated last year.
Nice.
Yep, exercise physiology.
Exercise physiology.
Yep.
Cool. What was it like going through that program?
It was interesting because COVID kind of like broke me up. Like from my sophomore to junior year was like COVID. I played football there, and so I was using what I was learning and like implementing it into my own training. And we had training there, obviously, through our strength and conditioning coaches and whatnot. So I'm also learning from them as I'm training. So all of it was like just like attacking my brain at every single angle, like in the classroom, in the gym. Like what works, what doesn't work kind of deal.
Yeah, because I feel like if you were just learning about it and not actually implementing it, like you could implement it, like let's say in your daily exercise routine, but like if you're not implementing it, like we were saying before, like training for something, like you can actually see like some progress or like a different outcome.
100%. It helped so much more. Yeah. Because I'm going to focus on something that I'm interested in versus.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think you kind of alluded to it, but did you originally want to go into that study?
Yeah. So I was actually going to school for athletic training, to be like an athletic trainer, be on the sidelines taping ankles and stuff like that. And then going into my sophomore year, like from my senior year of high school, like squatting like 265, benching 185, like cleaning I think probably 185 too.
Oh wow.
And like I got to college my freshman year, I'm talking to all these guys and they're like they put up way higher numbers in like high school, and I'm like, dang, but I worked hard. Like I spent so much time in the weight room, just didn't get the results. And that freshman year going to my sophomore year, everything went up. Like my squat went up 100 pounds to 365. Wow. My bench went up to 235. My clean went up to 235. So I was like, oh, there's a way like that actually works.
Yeah.
And I was getting better. I was getting bigger. I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch my major. And I was already taking all the same classes because it's basically the same. Like I could have been an athletic trainer and got the same certification, everything that I have right now. But
interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like you're, like we were just saying, you're seeing the kind of like fruits of like what you're learning about and actually implementing it. And since you were in like actually doing football and actually like doing the workouts and playing games, you could actually see the difference that,
you know, 100%.
And coming from high school to college, you can actually see like the difference that it made there.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. And so like what kind of got you interested in like, I guess, fitness in general? Because that kind of leads into like what we'll talk about. But like, what was that first like
I think
entry?
Just like when I was in 6th grade, going into 7th grade, we had a junior high school connected to our high school. And our oldest brother, George, he was going into his senior year. He was a captain on the football team. And he brought me to the weight room. And that was like my first introduction to like really like strength and conditioning fitness and like working out with weights, basically. And I kind of bought in because like I was a tiny kid. I was probably like 4'7", like 75 pounds. Like, so I bought in and it brought me a long way. Not just like dedication wise, but sorry, bro. not just physically, but like dedication, like mental toughness, like integrity. Like I don't have to go do my conditioning, but like I'm gonna go to the field and do it because like it's gonna make me better.
Yeah, that's so important, like to get that from a young age.
Right.
And like, I mean, our brains are still forming, and I don't know if like you learned about this like in the physiology part, but like I feel like it's so important to get those habits in while you're young and not like trying to beat it into you like in college or whatever.
Right.
So that's great. And you know, having an older brother, I'm sure, like Danny, he's so well molded. You know, you get that kind of like being molded by an older brother. So that's cool.
Yeah, I took Danny to that weight room a couple times too.
Oh.
Yeah, tried to get him to play football.
I didn't know it was football weight room, and then when they were going to play football, I'm like, I don't know how to play.
It's like he would have been nasty. He's tall and like got genetically gifted, but
He decided to draw.
Yeah, decided to draw.
and produce a podcast.
Right.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, what is it? So what are you doing now that you've graduated, like with that degree? And
yeah, so I'm working at Crunch Fitness as a personal trainer right now. I'm basically helping clients of like all kinds. I have general population, which is this everyday person. And then I have some like, you know, washed up athletes or people that are athletes right now or that are in the military or going into law enforcement and stuff. So it kind of keeps me on their toes, kind of training different people for different things. Right. And like it's cool because you're serving people. You're trying to get them to go to a place, and it's like super fulfilling when they hit that, you know, maybe extra couple reps or they hit a bigger weight or they just feel better or look better.
Yeah. I'm sure it's cool too, because like not only have you seen the difference it makes in your own life, but then now you're seeing, like you just said, the progress in other people,
right? Like
week to week or whatever it may be.
And I never want to do personal training.
Yeah.
I was like, I do not want to be a personal trainer. Like, I don't know if I was just up on my high horse. Like I went to school for this. I don't like. And it was in the fall where I was like, I applied to like 28 like strength and conditioning jobs. It's just hard to get into.
Yeah.
And like I just wasn't hitting any of them. Like I'd get like an interview here and there, and they'd be like, "Oh, you don't have enough experience." I'm like, "Where am I supposed to like get this experience from if I don't?" So I'm just like, I'm sitting there. I'm going to the gym with my mom, who was like doing all the same athletic workouts and stuff. It was so cool. She's like 50 something. And if you're watching this, Mom, I forget your age. I sorry, you're not 50 something. You're 30 something. Yeah, yeah. Cut that out, Danny. But I'm going to the gym with my mom, and we're jumping and stuff like that. Like, and it's impressive for someone like her to jump and do all this athletic stuff while everybody else, like maybe 99% of the gym, keeps their feet on the ground in the gym.
Right.
And so I'm working out there, and the night before, like the week prior to this, I'm like on my knees, like before bed, just like praying, asking God, like, put me somewhere. Like, where do I need to be? What do I need to do? Because like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no sense of direction. Like, I'm just lost. I need help. And so I'm sitting there box squatting with my mom, and this big dude like walks over, not big, but like jack dude kind of, and he's like, hey, you ever thought about like training? And I was like, well, yeah, I have my certified strength and conditioning specialist like certification, which like personal training certification here, kind of like CS, which I have up here. But and he was like, no way, like we were hiring, like if you want to like join. I was like, for sure. So I ended up joining at Crunch, and the dude that like was talking to me, he was the personal training manager there.
Oh wow.
And he's an arena football player, and he's also very strong in his faith.
Oh, interesting.
And so we spent like, before I had a lot of clients, we would spend like 3 hours just like
talking
into it, bro. Like, and he kind of got me back on track, like where I needed to be. And so that was just wild how like he was moved to come up to me after like I was praying about that, like asking for discernment of like what I should do, where I should go. And I kind of had to be humbled to be able to like walk into like this situation and be a personal trainer and meet him and like meet all my clients and whatnot and help them, achieve wellness.
Yeah. I think that brings up a good like point about like sometimes our prayers aren't answered. Well, most of the time our prayers aren't answered in the ways we want them to be answered. And so, and yeah, it does take great humility in those moments to like realize, oh, this is actually what God is sending me, not like some random, opportunity. So yeah, that's great. And it's awesome that he's like a faithful guy, because it's just great to have people like that in your life who aren't like necessarily just your friend because of like your occupation. And like when I started at my company, like a month or two into it, I started working with this guy. He lives out in Central Mass as well, like Holyoke. And it's so funny. Like he goes to a Catholic church, same parish name as me, and also taught CCD like me, and also his girlfriend was like into singing like me. And I'm like, dude, you're like my Colombian cousin. Like I had no idea, at another solar company, like I'd see a guy like this. And actually another guy I work with, I don't really talk to him a lot, but he used to live on Cape. He went to a Christian leadership camp that I went to in high school. Oh, wow. So it's like, and like one day we were working together and he's like, Joe, did you like go to CLI like in high school? And I'm like, yeah, like weren't you there? Like the kid with his broken leg? He's like, yeah. So it's just like so random to like see those people and just have those conversations.
Right, and having that different, like it's not just friends because I know you.
Yeah.
It's like when I was listening to Bible in the Year the other day, it was talking about David and Jonathan, the son of Saul.
Okay.
And their like relationship, because they were two like men of like God who had the same values and whatnot. And like they were like, they created covenants with each other, and they were like of the same flesh kind of deal. Because everything that they like desired, they both desired the same thing. Right. Even like Saul's going after like David and whatnot, like Jonathan's like, nah, this is my bro, like chill. But anyways, it was cool because he does Christian gospel music, and it's like actually wicked good. And so I'm like, we'll be sitting at the personal training desk, we'd be singing, football players. So like we both like we ended up like training together, and he left in February to go play arena football out in like Colorado.
Oh wow.
And stuff like that. So it's like, it's cool how many different levels we connected on and stuff like that. And it's nice having a friend that like you have the layers with.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you can switch like, hey, let's go like, lift weights and like have fun with that, or like go chase each other at the turf for the ball.
Right.
Versus like, hey, let's sit down and have like a serious conversation about it. Yeah. Like this is what's going on in my life. I need your help.
Yeah.
I need your prayers.
Right. Yeah. That's what's kind of been cool about Newman is like, even though and even this year there was a lot of new people who came, like everybody kind of, which is a good and bad thing. I think it's a good thing overall because you want a group to grow. But like everybody kind of finds their clique. Like Dan and Adam, like they're artisty types, so they like know how to get into that space together. Right. And like a couple of our friends are like nurses or like in the healthcare system, so they can like relate on that. A ton of us are engineers, so like we can like geek out on like engineering stuff.
Right.
and or like, you know, into music and stuff like that. So it's cool to see those groups kind of. It's sad because then like the smaller group that once was isn't as close, but at the same time, like more people are coming into the fold. And I think, like you said, those layered relationships are probably a little bit more fruitful than like that one layer. Because I mean, like reading the Bible together and like, you know, coming for, you know, holy hour is important, but it may not hold like in tough times or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So cool. Sweet. So I mean, fitness, health, wellness. Put a rainbow right here.
Yeah, that's fun.
Wellness. Try to figure that out for 6 hours.
Well, how many colors are in the rainbow?
As many as you want on it.
No, but like the traditional like rainbow that like you see.
How
It's
traditional
like
do you want?
like-
though? Rainbows are just depicted differently.
Okay.
Sometimes they're depicted as 3 colors because of the Trinity, or 7 because it's a divine.
Okay, I want a Trinitarian rainbow. Wellness.
Can I say something off record?
You gotta make a big gesture movement so just don't
Right here. Wellness.
Wellness.
So, kind of the topic today, I guess, is wellness. And like when Dan was kind of telling me you wanted to come on, I was like, oh, wellness, like fitness, spiritual, the body is the temple. But like you have 8, which is pretty cool. So like kind of maybe talk about like how you found out about this and then kind of like go through them quickly and then we can kind of dive in.
Right. So there's like a lot of different thoughts on the dimensions of wellness. It's really, you could kind of sit down and make your own.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I learned in school, is that there's 8 dimensions of wellness. There's physical, emotional, intellectual, social, occupational, environmental, financial, and spiritual. And those are like a secular kind of like spiritual for us.
Yeah.
Would be our Catholic faith. Right.
Okay.
However, they all kind of like tie into each other. Like if you took a Venn diagram and like you put circles, they would all just overlap.
Okay.
All 8 of them would overlap. And what's cool, I think, is that like in our faith, that's like the biggest one, is that we could draw that in a big circle and then put all 7 inside of that. That's like where my brain goes.
Yeah.
And I like to think in like diagrams and spectrums and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like I don't know why. Maybe it's just like the way my brain organizes it. So that's how I see. I see like, you know, that our faith helps build our, you know, other wellness, but our other wellness might fluctuate, but it also helps build our circle. So like if I have this giant circle right here, and that's my faith.
Yep.
That's my faith wellness. And then I have little circles overlapping here, right? Because
Gotcha.
all my wellness and all these things are like, I'm not super responsible for them right now. And then as we
Right.
grow, like as we turn into adults, we become wicked responsible on all these things.
Yeah.
And so like as we grow those, they grow into that circle, right? So they like expand.
Oh, I see.
And then we'd have this circle with all these little things pushing out on it, growing our spiritual faith
Yeah.
wellness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're kind of saying, as you like, which I agree. Like, I think our faith should influence like all aspects of our lives, and it definitely makes sense that all other 7 are. But then, kind of like as we've understood that, then all of our like for example, like let's just take one, occupational. Like, I think I have a good example for this. So when I started in solar, it was because like for like a respect for the environment, like wanting to be environmentally conscious, like, you know, creation, I want to protect it, but not like in a hippie way.
Right.
Just kind of like being something conscious about it. But now, like, I feel like once I've gone into solar, I kind of now in my day-to-day try to think even more consciously about creation. And like, you know, when some guys are, you know, tossing trash on site, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just put it in a bag and I'll bring it home and recycle it or whatever. And so now it's like pushing on those boundaries, like you said, of, so not like spirit, like this faith, like kind of grew that point, but now that point is growing the faith
because of the faith. Yeah. And but the thing is, like with that same Venn diagram thing, right? The biggest circle is still going to be faith. Others might grow, right? Seasons come, like you said before. Seasons come, and different circles might wane. Others might get bigger, right? But if we let one of those get bigger than our faith, then we're playing harlot for that, right? So like that's a false idol. If we let the financial wellness be
Right.
our main focus, then
Yeah.
we're forgetting God. We're putting God behind that. And then that would also, affect the rest of our things. Because, now I'm in money, right?
Mm-hmm.
My friends are different. My social aspect is different. My environment, I don't care about the environment. I'm right.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
so like keeping faith as a big one and relying on God in those, to help you kind of push all these other ones forward.
Right.
Like that's how we should be growing our wellness. We shouldn't be doing it secularly.
Yeah. Okay. So like before we dive deeper into those and then like the other explanations, like why do you think it's so important, like as Catholics, to have this idea of like wellness, like as like in totality, like, and where does that come from?
Right. I'd probably say, well, like think about like, the body is the temple for the Holy Spirit, right? Like it's not just, we have the flesh and we pound this flesh so much. Sorry for banging the table, Danny. We talk down about the flesh so often. Like we're like the spirit is strong, but the flesh is weak.
Right.
Right. Like, and we're just like, we're trying to build the spiritual, but like the balance, it's balance, right? Because we're not just spiritual beings right now. We're in the flesh.
Yeah.
Like we can't just like live our lives like, sitting here, not eating, not like all this stuff, right? We need to be healthy to be able to, feed our spirit, and vice versa. Our spirit lives in our body. Jesus was, body, blood, soul, and divinity. He wasn't just the divinity and soul, right? He was the flesh. He showed us what true flesh could do, right?
Yeah.
So, and like he taught us about all these different dimensions of wellness. Like through the Gospels, like how am I supposed to, emotionally be well? How am I supposed to like occupationally be well? How am I supposed to financially be well too, right?
Yeah. I had this conversation not that long ago, but like, we're only on Earth for 80 years, 70 years, but like we still kind of have to, in a way, make it to heaven. Like we can't just like fly by and like or just hope like in 80 years we will just like move on to heaven, but like we do have to like do some work to get there. And I think definitely having that idea of wellness being kind of like you were saying, we think so down on the flesh, like, oh, it's just this body, like we don't have to like really worry about it. We'll just like make it through and hopefully not die to a heart attack before 80 or whatever. But like it's true, like we're body and flesh. And I think part of that is because maybe our fallen nature kind of shows up more often in our flesh and like in our, inordinate passions or like our emotions and stuff like that. But I do think like to be fully well, you have to bind that spiritual and physical, spiritual and flesh together.
And look at them all, everything just all as one, right? Like they're individual pieces, and I say 8, but you could break them up into 10, 20 different like parts. You could break up them into 2, like how we do body, soul, like, right? So like, merging them, having a way to kind of organize them in your head, how I can push each one forward. That's where the 8 come into play. Like I can push. That's how I can push them forward, but also recognizing that they all play a larger part in our lives.
Yeah.
For our lives.
Right. Okay, so let's like take a couple minutes and go through and like maybe just give a couple examples or like, whatever you have written there. So like the first you have physical. So like kind of what are some examples of like our physical wellness?
Our physical wellness would be like the flesh, right? Yeah. So that's our biology, right? So like our like health. Of like, hey, do you have like this health problem that we can fix through, we don't want to take a ton of medications, right? But like that we can fix through diet, exercise. So nutrition, exercise, fitness, that's like my kind of wheelhouse, right? And so pushing that forward, we're going to live long, healthier lives. We're going to be able to protect our families. We're going to be able to do more for God, right? Like we're going to be able to work more. If God said, go build me a temple, like, we're carrying those stones.
Yeah.
Like,
how are you gonna get to the fifth story if you can't?
Right.
If you're winded by the first?
And like, right. So it's like, how are we gonna be able to endure when we don't have endurance?
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, and like not to like totally sidetrack it, but like we were having a conversation like a couple weeks ago about like suffering and like stuff like that, and like and we're not saying suffering for no reason is the point. Suffering to unite ourselves with Christ is the point. But if we're able to suffer more and last longer in that suffering, like if you kicked a bucket after like an hour of suffering, then how much are you suffering, right? Not to like be like very like, I don't know, dark about it, but to suffer more is good, like in that physical sense. So,
and it's interesting too, because we can also deny ourselves these wellness to grow them.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we get too far ahead, that helps with the vanity and like that kind of like idolatry of each one.
Right.
Like we deny ourselves to that, and we sacrifice that. That's sacrificial, like like fasting, all this stuff. So, anyways, so we have physical, right?
Yep.
Fitness, health, nutrition, kind of that whole kind of field of whatnot. Then we have emotional, basically how we cope and manage our feelings, right? How our thoughts,
right?
So like that can kind of play into intellectual. Like I said, they're all kind of carry over into each other.
Yeah.
But like meditation, like can I handle my emotions? Like can I go into deep thought without becoming like anxious about like what I'm supposed to do? Can I feel a certain way but think this way? Do I have a thought that isn't my thought? Because we have a lot of those.
Right.
That I know that's not my thought and it's not going to cause this feeling.
Yeah. And I feel like today, especially, like I've seen so many freaking commercials for BetterHelp, like in the last month or two. I think they're getting a big push. But, a lot of that is like dealing with your emotions and stuff. And it's like so many of today society's problems of like, depression, anxiety, other addictions are because of like our emotional baggage and just not, like you said, being able to like process that rightly with God.
Right. And with one another, right?
And with one another, yeah.
Like as guys, we don't really speak up about our
Right.
mental health. It's hard.
Yeah.
Right? And it just takes humility. Just being like, hey, I'm not this superhero you think I am, to like anybody that looks up to you or like that you're friends with, right?
Yeah.
And showing the other people that like me as a man, I can have feelings and I can still work through like everything I need to do, having these feelings and showing emotion.
Yeah.
Like you read like the Bible, like they tear their like clothes and whatnot, right? Like, so it's like, or like David leaping with joy in front of like the ark, or John in the womb, right? But like, so we have emotions. God created us with emotion, right? Like we should be able to feel those emotions and express those emotions, but we shouldn't have to tie them to thoughts that aren't like, they should be tied to thoughts that are only about like God.
Yeah.
Not
like righteous emotions, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I forget the scripture, where it's like when you're dealing with anxiety, it's focus on all things that are good and righteous or something like that, and pure, for like peace, if you want peace, right? Kind of deal, like versus like there's things like we're in constant spiritual warfare. Like there's gonna be things, and that's where I find like my anxiety is just like when I'm weak, like if I wake up from like a nap or something because I'm having a stressful day, like that's where like any like negative feelings would come in, because I'm having a tough day, and that's where like the negative thoughts come in. And it's like, is that going to dictate the rest of my day? Am I going to sit here and be like, I'm not where I want to be? I have two decisions. I can hear that thought and be like, all right, what am I going to do about it? Like I'm doing as much as I can, or let me go do more. Or I have that thought and I'm like, that makes me sad. Yeah. And I like cling on to it. Like, no, I need to take refuge in the good things. Like, oh, right now I'm working for this. I'm like, my wellness is good physically, emotionally, right? I'm dealing with this, but like whatever, right? Intellectually, like I'm reading this book. I really like it. Yeah. Right. Like, so they all play into each other. So that's like, we're still on emotional, but like they build thoughts, right? You have to think about like things that are good. Being grateful.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So emotional. And then we have intellectual.
Intellectual, yeah. So that's like critical thinking.
Yeah.
Problem solving, being creative. You know, finding ways to like share knowledge or expand your knowledge and whatnot. Right. So we're just, you know, they're always learning. We're not limiting to ourselves to just what we already know, or teachers.
Yeah.
Right. Like we are our own teacher, and then we learn something. We should share that with other people. So that's tying into the social a little bit too now. So like now we're helping others learn and build that intellectual. So that's kind of what this podcast is, right? So like you have people coming on from different backgrounds talking about their like journey and their faith, right? We're sharing what we've learned or different inputs on like different ways to think.
Yeah.
And that's like, if we don't have the social aspect of that and we just sit in our own bubble and we don't have diverse thought, then we're just like, we're going to think one way for the rest of our lives, and that could lead us like a bad way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, for sure.
The next is social, and that is relationships and interactions we have with others. And that's huge, like in our faith with like the church and whatnot, the community, our parishes and whatnot. And we weren't born to be one person.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah. I mean, even Jesus had he had his 12, like we were saying, we have like bigger groups of friends, but like to have people who know your layers and like, I forget, oh gosh, was it Timothy, John, and James who saw the, when Jesus went up to the mountain to pray and saw the Transfiguration. Yeah, like that's definitely Peter, James, and John. Right? That was definitely his layers, right? Because he saw his divinity like shown. So like, yeah, I would definitely say social is super important. I mean, if Jesus had friends, then we should too.
For sure. And you even like go back to Adam and Eve, like God created man, and then he created woman for us.
Yeah.
For us, each other. I shouldn't say us, like for us men, like you're our gift. No, like you are precious to us, but like it's a mutual thing. And then we have occupational, which I feel like is tough to like carry into like faith.
I think it is definitely, especially today when like a lot of your job is just like for the money. And I have this thought bouncing around my head. I don't know like really what I want to do with it, but I know it could be a good podcast episode, but just like and it's tough because like I just said, it's about the money, but also like if we're just living to work and not working to live, that makes sense. Like we shouldn't just be living to just go to work. We should be working so that we can do the things we want to do in life, and have, you know, a 401k and health benefits.
If it was like living for the money, that'd be financial, and that'd be like idolatry, right? So like if we put that into like our faith, which is hard, but like we put that into our faith, occupational is like, how are we going to use our gifts and talents to better ourselves and society, like, and serve others?
Does that also tie like into vocation?
I guess, yeah. Vocation would be huge in the occupation, right?
Gotcha.
So having a family, I guess, right? That's an occupation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just the jobs that you're getting paid for.
Right. Yeah. Right. But yeah, I think that's a better way to say it, like you just said, like what were we made for?
Right.
Cool.
Yep. Then we have environmental. So, you know, your personal surroundings and just like the environment as a whole. So like your environment, like the Newman Center here, right? Like taking care of that, making sure like, hey, if there's like a hole in the wall, you're patching that up because like this is your spot. Yeah. Right. Like this is your, like, or in like the church, like that's the temple. Right.
Right.
So like we got to take care of that. And then outside, God created the earth. He created all this stuff. So like, are we going to like disgrace it?
Yeah.
No, we want more people to enjoy it. We want to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, like, getting back to kind of like the emotional stuff, but like a lot of people say their emotional baggage later in life is kind of tied to their environment growing up. Like they have like, disagreements in their family, or, you know, a broken home, or, you know, something traumatic that happened as a cause of their environment. So yeah, definitely I would say, you know, having a healthy environment would for sure lead to better wellness.
Right. And then like also enjoying your environment. Like
Yeah.
you can, it's not just like keeping up with it, but like, why are we keeping up with it if we're not like using it? Right?
Yeah.
So like, maybe you can do both. Like, right, I go for a hike and I see a water bottle, just pick it up, and you're enjoying nature.
Right.
And that's like the best way to even get like, you know, some emotional wellness in.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like go on a hike and just, you know, think, like be in meditation. Like when I go for hikes and talk, like I just talk. If I'm walking, I'm talking. And like I'm not a big talker. Like I'm a thinker. Like I'll sit here for like hours to myself just thinking. But like if I'm walking, it's like flow, which is cool. Flow is like this state of
Yes.
being,
we should talk about flow.
Yes,
I have thoughts on flow. Okay.
Yeah. So I get into flow, and we'll do that after this. But and like I'm just talking, and I'm in nature, and I'm like it's so like it's so much better than like sitting on the couch and talking. Or like I would go study, and it's probably only like 20 minutes from here, Lakeville. I would like drive like 20 minutes from Bridgewater to Lakeville, and if they have like the little walking paths like, along a lake, I'd bring like my hammock. I'd do like my classwork there outside, just enjoying it. Right?
Yeah.
Like the environment, nature, the beauty, like the sunset would be coming down. I'm like sitting there reading like like a book or something. I'm like, wow, life. And it just helped me like emotionally. Right. And like I'm getting that intellectually.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you said, like everything kind of builds up on each other. Yeah.
But flow is cool.
Yeah.
So flow is the intersection of difficulty of like a task, and then your ability to do the task.
Okay.
Did I do that right? Your skill. Yeah. Your skill and its difficulty.
Okay.
So if I had like a chart, and I put difficulty on this axis, and I put skill on this axis, right? So let's say, give me a task, like something like you want to do, like or
studying, I guess.
Studying.
Or no, okay, so like a skill.
Yeah, or like
jogging. I don't know.
Jogging. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's cool because it's kind of layered too, but it's simple, right? So like we have the difficulty of jogging. Right. So say it's a 3-mile jog, and you've never ran before in your life. Yeah. Your skill is down here, but your difficulty is up here. Right. So it's going to be kind of hard, and you might not enjoy it, even though like you're going to get that, like it's going to hurt. It's going to like, be a grind, whatever. Like your skill isn't there where it's like just you get that runner high and you're just like bouncing around. Like, versus like if you're seasoned, like say you run like a 10K or something like that. Yeah. And like that's your race, whatever. A 3-mile run, which is like a 5K, is a piece of cake to you. And you can do a nice, enjoyable, easy run at like, if you want to clear your mind, you know, the difficulty is here compared to the 10K up here. Yeah. And your skills up here. So it's kind of in that flow. But if you did a mile run and say you weren't like running your like fastest mile, you might be bored. Okay. So like, let's say it was like a video game. Yeah. Like, so like you're playing like Halo Reach or something like that. and you set it to like veteran status. Yeah. So it's like, it's hard, right? But you just started playing the game. You're not going to have fun. But then if you also set it, you're seasoned, you played the campaign like 5 times. Yeah. And you put it to easy mode, you're not going to have fun because it's too easy. Right. So it's finding that like intersection of like difficulty and your skill, where it's like it keeps you enough on edge but not too much. Right. It's not too easy. So it's where they meet. It's kind of where they meet like perfectly. Like, gotcha. Because they can meet and it's too hard. I don't know if I'm like explaining this too good. Yeah. But I'm trying to like if I took that axis, so difficulty skill, it should look like that in the middle of the two. It shouldn't be too difficult and it shouldn't be too easy, basically. Okay. So it changes based on your skill. Okay. Yeah, because like where I thought you were going with that, which I think is still kind of tied, like and this was like bigger when I was in college, like doing studying, and they were talking about like, oh, like get you into your flow state of studying, and they would say it's kind of like where you enter this state of like hyper focus where you're not worried really about anything else, and you're able to just hyper fixate and like get the task done. And so I guess that makes sense with what you're saying. Kind of like your skill is matched to the difficulty, so you're not bored, but you're also not like struggling to reach the goal. And so you just kind of like I like grinding it out. Yeah, I like that. Bored and and yes, so like studying, that's the perfect, like that's a good example. That's like, I always just think about like sports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just lost track of my
Flow state.
flow state.
Studying.
Flow state.
Bro, guys.
Oh, well, I was listening to, I forget what podcast. I think it was like The Art of Manliness or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
They had like a guest talking about like the unconscious mind, the subconscious. Yeah, the unconscious mind, I want to say. So it's not like, so like you have the unfocused mind. Boom. There we go. So we have like, think about like focusing in on like something, right? So you have the focused mind, and you can only read like that much of the paper with the focused mind.
Yeah.
Because we're just pinpoint, like this is all I have to think about.
Yeah.
And then you have the unfocused mind, where like we're not that like focused in on it, and we're more creative.
Is this this is more than just what you're visually seeing?
Right.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be like thinking outside of the box kind of deal. So like if you're like struggling on something, right? So that'd be that like too difficult of a task.
Right.
If you're struggling on something, your mind is completely focused on like doing that one task, and it's not letting your brain being creative, thinking different avenues. You're just trying to get from point A to point B, where, you know, going this way and then zigzagging around, right? You might find the answer you're looking for.
Yeah.
Being creative. So that's kind of like flow.
Right.
Like, so you get into flow and you're not focused on the task
Right.
as much as you need to be, so you can kind of be creative. So that's where like when I'm walking, or like I'll go on a mountain bike, and I'm riding on the mountain bike, and I'm like, wow, like I like all these things, like I'm thinking about my day, and I'm like, I'm having these, that's like when you're in the shower sometimes, like you're just showering and you're just like, you have the craziest thought pop up.
Right.
That's like that unfocused mind. It's like, dude, I was thinking about that for like an hour, like staring at a piece of paper, but now I'm in like the shower, not even looking at what I was looking at, and like it just the answer pops into your head.
Yeah.
So it's like, but yes, that
kind of getting into the flow, part of your environment,
right, and that helps kind of, I guess,
with everything
physical,
else,
emotional, like, side tangent, rabbit hole.
Good shorts.
The seventh, yeah, true. The seventh would be financial. So being financially responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be Judas.
The silver isn't worth it.
It's not. It never is. And bro was playing a harlot for the silver. I like that word. I like saying harlot. Playing a harlot. Yeah. Anyways, being financially just responsible, or like, and I guess in our faith it'd be kind of like, you know, managing our resources that God gives us. Right. Like, He might not, you know, give you, you know, you might not win the lottery, even though you pray like, you know, Powerball, like Mega Millions, right? But like you have what He gave you, and what He's allowing you to give. Like, how I manage that so that I can continue to like push everything else that I need to push, because it's just a tool, right? And then like our generosity, helping others that don't have it, right? Setting ourselves up for the future, our stewardship to the church, right? Our sacrifice. So that's the sacrificial part of it. And I mean, money. The root of all evil. So it is definitely it's like I think it's the easiest one, right? Like, to become like a false idol kind of thing. To be our God, like, and that's probably the biggest one in our world right now.
I mean, especially with like the prices of everything and inflation and stuff like that. It's definitely a big piece of it.
It makes it one of like, you need it to live. And it's like, and we push it even more, like to that extent, like when like we need God to live. But
gotcha.
Okay.
So then financial kind of leads into the last point, which was spiritual.
Yep. Which I wrote in capital letters: fully rely on God. So your sacraments, your prayer, your scripture, and your you know, serving and like evangelism, your ministry, basically. And that's the Catholic kind of view on like spiritual, because like I'm not gonna go tell you to like, you know, use crystals or like look at astrology, because like you're not supposed to, and you shouldn't, because that's not God.
It's dumb.
Dumb, stupid.
Yeah. No, and I think, I mean, being Catholic, we have such great doctors of the church who have kind of told us how we should live our spiritual lives. And so in one aspect, it's like the easiest thing to do because there's so much like wisdom on it and discernment from other people. But also, like, it is also the hardest because it's like spiritual. Like,
Right.
it's harder to like pin down and like get good. And like, yeah, every morning when I'm like, oh, I need to like sit down and do my prayers. Wait, I'll just say no farther as I'm leaving my bedroom and I gotta go like because I'm late to something.
Right.
So it's definitely overlooked. But yeah, I like that you had scriptures, sacraments,
Right. And like that's all like, right, like the scripture that's gonna be under maybe like you could use it for your intellectual, like you want to learn more. Or like maybe emotional, you need something else, or prayer would work for that.
Yeah.
Whereas like financial would be like maybe that's your ministry, like you're going out and like you're donating to charity, or you're buying essentials and giving them out to like homeless people or something like that, right? Or your environmental could be that. So your ministry, and then I think sacraments are definitely like the most spiritual one out of like those ones I've said, where it's like that's God gave us that.
Right.
We gotta use those.
Those are the big ones.
What do you say about that pyramid, Charlie?
Well, I had this idea about like if you could make a pyramid of these, like a food pyramid, but like sacraments, and I kind of swapped it out with that Venn diagram kind of example.
The Venn diagram though is good too. Like you could also kind of think of this as like a pie chart where everything's like equal, and like the chart gets bigger and everything else gets bigger. Because I think like something we've talked about before is like moderation and just like having good moderation in everything you do. And like the key, like my mother says, the key to life is moderation. And because if you're over heavy in one thing, then oftentimes like some of this other stuff could go to the wayside. So I definitely think having that Venn diagram, like you said, of all the things kind of working together makes a lot of sense. But also the pyramid too. Like if your base is strong, then also the pyramid can get stronger
and that's
bigger.
That like diversity of thought thing. Like whatever helps you like organize your thoughts, that's how you should organize your thoughts. It's gonna make whatever you can understand the best. It's like whatever you can understand the best. And that's the same with segue into a little fitness thing, like a little fitness. Just talking about some if you're looking to get into fitness and health, for your health or for training for a specific goal, there's a lot to it, but there's also not a lot to it. Like you could study this for years, but also it's like very simple. So it's like,
BSU, why did you take my money?
why did you take my money? But at the same time, like it helps.
Right.
But like if you're trying to get into it, I would definitely say go to a gym, do it in a sense, like do it reverently, like you're doing this for the glory of God, right? Like everything you're doing, you're do for the glory of God, right? Obviously. But the best way, 2 to 3 times a week, go into that, pick exercises that you like to do, because those are the ones that you're going to do. Do them. Continue to do them. And, maybe you start 1 time a week, next week 2 times a week, next time 3 times a week. And it's kind of the same thing with like your faith. It's kind of the same thing with your faith, right? Like, and each one of these parts of wellness, push one thing at a time forward.
Cool. And so kind of like with all this wellness, we're talking about, I think kind of the easiest thing people kind of gravitate towards when they think of like becoming a weller person, a better person, like having better wellness is the physical, right? And so like you just said, there's like a ton of physical things that you can do, not that it has to be complicated, but like you said, reverently is better, which I think that could be a good tagline for like maybe a company that you start or something.
Yeah.
But so like where do you like where should they start? Do you have any like recommendations on places to look?
Yeah, go get a gym membership first, right? And if you're struggling with if you want to lose, if you're struggling with your eating as well, because that's like 90% of the battle, go get a nutritionist, or like you can look all this stuff up online. Yeah. But get a gym membership. Do exercises that you like. And if you don't know those exercises, most like commercial gyms, they'll set you up with a personal trainer for like a session.
Yeah.
Take that free personal training session. Sign up with a personal trainer for, a month.
Yeah.
And just kind of get like a routine that like you can do, especially if you've never worked out before in your life. Like I'm lucky that I had like football and like all this stuff. I mean, obviously I have the education, but it kind of teaches you how to do it. Whereas like our public school system kind of sucks at, leading people to do stuff.
Yeah.
That's rabbit hole for a whole nother
Yeah,
thing.
I know.
But,
Like you look up like on a program and it says, "Oh, do 10 dips," and you're like, "What am I dipping?"
Right. Yeah. Some
But
buff chick dip. Like,
oh, dip my chip more. Oh, okay.
right. That's what like so physical education should have been that in like school. But anyways, if you don't have that background, like there's no shame. Go ask and someone will teach you the right way how to do it. Even if it's a friend that goes to the gym, like that's probably the best way to do it. Go into it as a social thing. Like go sign up for like a spin class or go into like a high intensity like interval training class with like a bunch of friends and whatnot. And then you're gonna grow that social aspect, which is gonna help.
Right.
Kinda
Yeah. That's kind of like my sister. I kind of sort of make fun of her for like doing all these weird classes. It's like, oh, we just like shadow box for an hour, and I'm like, you just shadow box with 30 people in this room for an hour? But like she does that, she does the spin,
crazy.
she does like all this like stepping stuff and Zumba, but it's worked because she's lost a bunch of weight and she looks good, and it's just part of that
and if you're
not
not
in the community,
right, if you're not like specifically training for something like like you can do whatever you like to do, right? Like people like they want to become more fit, right? Or they want to lose weight. They really might like running or like the outdoors, so they might run, they might bike or something like that, versus like someone that wants that like social aspect. Like they might join like a club that does like spin or something like that, and then they get smoothies after. But it's like really whatever you want to do, like make it something that you're going to show up for repeatedly and show up for it, just like you show up for church, just how you pray, right? Like you have to build different habits. And the habit, like you also have to make it become your like not personality, because like
well the discipline leads to sanctity, I guess, in a lot of ways. So
you have to kind of be like, I'm a fit person now, just like not I want to become fit, I'm a fit person because I'm doing this.
That's some of the best advice I gave myself, like when I was like in college, was like, you just got to fake it till you make it, right? And then you're there, and then you just got to nobody's perfect and has it all figured out. Right. If they do, they're lying. Cool. Sweet. Well, thank you for kind of outlining these 8 parts of wellness, which were physical, emotional, intellectual, social, occupational, environmental, financial, and spiritual. I think people are going to get a lot of use out of that. I'm sure we'll have like more links, and I don't know, do you have like a fitness page or?
Yeah, it's C Piselli Performance on Instagram.
Cool. So I'm sure you have a lot of tips and stuff on that. And
I'm gonna try. I'm honestly not too like.
Or just DM him and he'll
DM me like with any questions or whatever, and we can point you in the right direction. I do want to push out like more content, but it's kind of hard. I don't like carrying a camera around the gym. Like I want to be like, hey, it's okay. I went to school for this. I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this for like this. Yeah. Because like cringe if you carry gym, but I should be able to.
Right. Well, there's so many people doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right. Yeah.
No, for sure. Great. Well, thanks again. I guess
thanks
just
for having me.
Of course, the last part, just the most important part is, do you frog?
I do frog.
He frogs.
I try.
I knew it. Dan's brother, he must frog.
I must frog.
All right, so I guess we'll just close in prayer, and let's get started. So in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to speak with Chuck about wellness and how you've created us, spiritual and physical, and how we can mesh the two to live out our lives in a more fulfilling way in accordance with what you have planned for our lives. May we all continue to think about these ideas and try to implement them in our lives and how you see fit for us. Just again, thank you for Chuck and his presence here and sharing his knowledge and his testimony and his example. So we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Good stuff.